Right, let's get right to it. It is Saturday, right around 10 a.m. Thanks for joining me. I'm Tom Novak. Hey, we're going to be talking about the potential for severe weather now this afternoon and into this evening over southern Minnesota. And then another shot of rain showers, the way it appears tomorrow. So I think plenty of moisture now on the way. So let's get right to it. By the way, thank you very much, Mike, and your team over there at Weather Safe Restoration in the Twin Cities for sponsoring this video. All right, here's your moisture channel loop from outer space and a couple of things you can see. Here's this storm system now wrapping up over the northern plains and now moving into the upper Midwest. You can clearly see some dry air now punching into South Dakota and eventually into southwestern Minnesota. And that dry air punch coming out of the Rockies is very important because that's going to set us up potentially for some severe weather as we get what we consider some dry air over some moist air, and that creates an unstable atmosphere. And I think that's going to happen right over here, over portions of southern Minnesota and a good chunk of Iowa. But a beautiful looking storm system now wrapping up over South Dakota and North Dakota. Look at it. This is the infrared satellite loop, and this is the dying complex of storms now. They were pretty strong over South Dakota, but as they moved east and a bit southeast, they were losing their punch, and eventually we're going to get some redevelopment, I think, right in this area here as we get into this afternoon. You can see it a little bit more clearly here on the visible satellite loop. Nice looking storms over northern Iowa, but again, they're losing their punch. And you can see that here, by the way, on radar here in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. These are dying storms. And I'm going to freeze it here right on the last frame. You can see some clearing now happening over southwestern Minnesota and northwestern Iowa. That clearing line is going to move east, and that's going to set up this area of Minnesota, southern Minnesota, much of Iowa, for a redevelopment of thunderstorms probably after 2 or 3 this afternoon as we get the environment to juice up here with some sunshine, especially over the southern 1/3 of Minnesota. The jet stream, the river of air, 30 to 35,000 feet. Look at this beautiful looking storm system now. This is a bit odd for summertime now to get a strong storm system like this, but here we got some jet stream winds at about 80 to 90 knots. So that's pretty strong for this time of the year that are nosing into Iowa and southwestern Minnesota, and usually on the nose or left front quadrant of a jet streak like that is where you get lift in the atmosphere, and that's going to happen here later this afternoon. You can see it, just a beautiful looking storm this afternoon and evening wrapping up over Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, and eventually that storm system kicks away as we go through the day on Monday. But no doubt the threat for showers and storms are going to be there not only this afternoon and this evening, but throughout the day tomorrow as we zoom in on the upper Midwest now and northern plains. These are the winds at 500 millibars, or at about 20 to 25,000 feet. And what I wanted to show you is how strong the winds are. They're coming up out of the southwest. And southern Minnesota and northern Iowa are right on the nose of those strong winds. Again, we call that kind of a jet core or a jet streak that is moving out of Nebraska and into Iowa and southern Minnesota. And this is where the lift is going to be this afternoon and evening, right in this area, almost right over the Twin Cities metro and Rochester areas, Mankato also in on that. As we go down in the atmosphere a little bit, this is about 10 to 15,000 feet in the atmosphere. You can see the winds are still strong, and now they're coming up straight out of the south and southwest. And then in the lower layers of our atmosphere at about 5 to 7,000 feet, look at how the winds now are starting to turn to a more southerly and maybe even a bit of a southeasterly direction. You're kind of getting the idea. We're getting a turning of the winds in the atmosphere as we go down in the atmosphere or go up in the atmosphere. And that turning is what creates an environment where storms can maintain themselves. We call that helicity or shear in the atmosphere. And that's what we're getting here right over southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. Here's your future satellite loop. And watch how it shows these storms as we get into this morning. These are the dying storms now over southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. Look what happens as we get into this afternoon. And let me just rewind that again. Watch what happens as we get into this afternoon. Look at how the storms blow up now over southern and eastern Minnesota and northern Iowa, so that by 6 o'clock this evening, I think much of eastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and Iowa will be threatened with some thunderstorm activity. And we get into this wraparound then as we go through the day on Sunday. And that means showers, maybe even some claps of thunder throughout the day on Sunday. They'll be scattered, but still some much needed moisture wrapping around on this storm system. Future radar from a high-res computer model guidance, there are the dying storms moving east and losing their punch over Minnesota and Iowa. And then here we go, right around, this is the timestamp here, right around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Look at how the storms are expected to blow up near or just west of the I-35W corridor. And then those storms will continue to redevelop and move east into western Wisconsin as we go through the evening. We'll get a bit of a break, I think, later this evening. And then here comes the wraparound precipitation for much of the day on Sunday. So make sure you have an umbrella handy on Sunday, because these showers could erupt at any time during the day on Sunday, and some of these showers could pack a bit of a punch. So yeah, we need the rain. We all know it, and I think many of us are going to get it. By the way, northern Minnesota and central Minnesota got a lot of rain over the last 24 hours. Just looking at radar real quick, here are the dying storms now losing their punch over northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. I'm not even sure if they're going to make it to Rochester yet this morning. They may die out before that happens. But then, you guys all know about this. I sent this out yesterday, and my mind hasn't changed at all. I still think redevelopment of the storms right over the Mankato, just west of the Twin Cities and south of the Twin Cities and near the I-35 corridor. I think that's where the thunderstorms are going to redevelop this afternoon, probably after 2 or 3, and these storms will move to the east and northeast and certainly cause some problems, I think, over eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. They're good problems because we certainly need the rain. All right, that's your update. If something really important happens this afternoon, I'll probably have another video update, and I may even go live on Facebook this afternoon if we can get these storms to redevelop and become severe. But anyway, keep an eye to the sky. Have a great weekend, everyone.